All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome this morning to the weekly Cindy Timchal Women's Lacrosse Media Zoom. Like always, we will start off with three questions from everybody, and then we'll circle back around and make sure everyone's questions get answered. Scott Wyckoff, let's start with you today.
Hey, coach, what do you like best about your team as you head into the game against Army in the semis?
Well, I mean, well, first of all, Scott, again, thanks for being on, and Bill, it's just a wonderful opportunity for once again Navy Women's Lacrosse to go and compete at the Patriot League Championships. You know, it's many times a tough feat, and certainly the opportunity now where we'll be matched up against Army. Um, no matter when we go and have this opportunity to go to the Patriot Leagues, we're always excited and always know that the team that we're going to play is it's really going to be a tough one. And if you witness any of the games this past weekend, particularly in the Big Ten, that was right down the road in College Park, Maryland, you understand how close these games can be and how exciting it is, especially to have all this amazing lacrosse right here, in the state of Maryland. And for Navy, we're excited. We, relish the opportunity. We've been training hard and coming off a big victory from Lafayette and just ready to compete as hard as we can.
What did you guys learn the most from Army? I know always disappointing to lose, especially to Army, but what was the takeaway that you really think is going to help your team in this second matchup?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of tears in the locker room and a lot of maybe regrets about things. However, we're facing a really, really, really tough and well coached, Army team. I'm sure as Army as Navy, we're a different team than what we were then. Um, we trust that our matchups are a little better and our, fight is a little bit harder. And, it's just a wonderful competition. As soon as the whistle blows for that 60 minutes or more, that we just, compete hard and, really enjoy and relish the moment and the opportunities that we can put on a Navy uniform and represent the Naval Academy, for, Navy Women's Lacrosse.
For a game like you had over the weekend, to have 10 different players score in a conference tournament game, what kind of confidence does that give your team knowing that they can rely on each other that way playing at this highest level?
Yeah, it's really been a key focus of ours. And in many situations, some of our perhaps top performers or someone that gets hot, a lot of teams like to face guard, kind of like that step, I think Stephen Curry, I watch a lot of his clips where they're always trying to shut him off. So we just have to really lean on each other and play great team offense. It's been a focus of ours going into these last few weeks, to really zip the ball around, attack the second slide and, um, like you said, with 10 players able to come off on Sunday, getting points in the score column, I think, all of our, our collective team is just happy to like, one of the things we relish is we wanted to start playing better defensively. I think we've proven that the last couple of weeks that unit has united and, a little more scrapping just kind of pick away at some of the things that we feel that we can go into the game on Thursday night and play with confidence.
Thanks, coach.
Thanks, Scott.
Bill Wagner.
Hey, Cindy.
Yes. Hi, Bill.
Um, what do you do to change the regular season result against Army? What do you feel is key to, turning that around?
It just, I think it's a lot of little things. Certainly, our matchups have been really strong. It's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sport. And, we tweak things. I kind of addressed a little bit about the defense, um, you know, just being a little bit hungrier. I know Army came at us with, fierce intensity. Um, and, we have to kind of match that. But, in the end, we're preparing for Navy and the things that we do well. And, um, there's not a lot you can do at this point in the season except to just really build on the successes that we've had and learn, like you say, from the shortcoming of coming up short at Army and, go into this game. Like any other conference game, you go into it with a whole lot of, certainty of what our game plan is. And, we go in with confidence, but we know that Army's going to have a lot, for us to handle. And so we're going to hopefully respond as the game goes on.
When you look back at the first game, the 7-0 run to start the game, in your view, what happened there? What led to them jumping out to that big early lead?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a couple little things. We had some early turnovers and they came hard at us. We just really have to protect and take care of the ball. And that momentum just didn't seem to, they just kept coming at us hard. It's just really lacrosse. If you look at quarters, a lot of them are momentum shifts across the country. And so that was a real tough first quarter for us. And it was tough for us to respond, to kind of recover from that first quarter.
Well, yeah, that's what the stats that really stick out is that you had 10 turnovers in the first half, which is pretty significant amount of turnovers. And then also for the game, only 3 saves for Navy. How crucial is it going to be for Felicia to come up with a few more stops against a very potent Army offense?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, I mean, we've been focusing the last couple of weeks and playing good, tough defense, and Felicia's been diving into her, drill sets and sessions, and so, yeah, I mean, collectively, as we need to play better defensively and be stronger on that side of the ball, and again, I think collectively as a unit, we know we all. We all win together, we lose together, we play together. So, and it's a whole total bought in process for Navy women's lacrosse.
In that game, when I look at Emily Mess had a goal and an assist, do you feel like someone of her caliber and capability in a game like this really needs to step up and have a big game for Navy to succeed?
I think, yeah, well, I mean, but Mess does so many things in so many different areas on the field that maybe aren't always reflective on the scoreboard or stats. For Emily Mess, she's all about the team. She's all about, just full field. Whatever it takes. Emily Mess is going to be there for us, and whether it's Emily or someone else. I mean, Northwestern scored the winning goal of a player that came off the bench as a freshman to beat Maryland on Sunday. You just never know what can happen. So, for Emily, she's looking to set up her teammates. She's looking to, kind of unite in that offense. And, as our captain and leader, she's going to do that. Again, I can't put a prediction of what she will lead by the example of getting, going out there, going hard and playing for the team. And, we'll see how that, ends up. We feel confident. We have a lot of players on the offensive end that, been working hard collectively to be that unit that can, she's always going to credit her teammates, when she scores. And certainly the other teammates who do score are going to credit Mess for what she's done on the field to help us.
Their attacker, Allison Riley, had a big game against you the first time out, 6 goals. What do you have to do to try to contain her? Is there maybe a particular, without giving away state secrets, somebody that you think can shut her down? Or
well, they've proven all season they can't be shut down. So, you've said it, they're dynamic, they're incredible, athletes competing for Army, and defensively we'll have our hands full in limiting what they are able to do, but they're very tough to stop.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Coach, a moment ago you mentioned a player coming off the bench, a freshman for Northwestern to help them win against Maryland. Over the weekend, you had a freshman come off the bench, Taylor Miles, led the team with 3 goals and 4 assists. Just kind of how has she matured throughout the course of the year and become one of our valuable players?
Yeah, I mean, we're just so proud of Taylor. She's an incredible, young, really outstanding lacrosse player for us on the offensive end. And it's just great to see her emerge. She may have been inspired with her older sister, Nikki, who plays for Northwestern and had I believe 5 goals and an assist on Friday night. Um, you know, I'm glad you brought up Taylor. She's, just incredible. She stands out and just really has a lot of confidence for a freshman. So very pleased with her coming off of that performance going into this weekend.
Sticking with the freshmen for the second consecutive year, Navy has had the Rookie of the Year with Alyssa Chung this year, Michaela Williams last year, and obviously Ava Yovino was in the conversation the year before. Uh, how have you been able to get such good young talent here at the Naval Academy?
Yeah, we've been quite fortunate. I think it really does stem from you know, the 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 Navy Athletic Association and the United States Naval Academy standing out as one of the premier, top Division I programs. We've been in the top 25 for, the last 3 years and always in the hunt, and getting opportunities to compete at the highest level. I think that's very attractive to, Michaela. It's very attractive for Alyssa Chung, for Ava Yavino, being located here in one of the best, states in the country for lacrosse at all levels, whether it's, on the men's side or the women's side or in the high schools. So we're just very fortunate that, whether it's Michaela or in this case, Alyssa Chung, or even Ava Yavino to say yes to Navy, to, want to get one of the best educations in the country, serve your country, and play in one of the top Division I lacrosse programs in the country. So we're just very blessed by them wanting to be here and be a part of something that is really very special.
Aside from Alyssa Chung being named Rookie of the Year, Navy also had 6 people named All Patriot League, including 4 first teamers. Just kind of talk about that and the success that those individuals have had throughout the year.
Yeah, Alyssa Chung, I'm sorry, Alyssa Daly, being our draw specialist and just really leading the team in that manner. And, we know every game starts with a draw and the whistle. And it's just exciting for those honors. And again, I think it's a true reflection of every day when we go out and practice hard and play for each other and, and have fun and, sometimes grind out some really tough days, where there's a lot of, demands on all of our students and student athletes. So it's just very refreshing to get these accolades. And again, I think it's a true reflection of our whole team. Emily Mess has really led the charge. Now one of our, captains and being, recognized in this manner. She's always a player that, teams are worried about and trying to shut off, regardless of whether she has a goal or 5 goals. She's definitely a threat. And then, to see, Tori, back, in full prime, attacking well, finishing well, and being a big part of our dynamic offense. Ava, for her to have, come back hard from an injury and work her way into a situation where she is just really, a mainstay of our, whole midfield offense and defense, and just so proud of her she's such a team player, sometimes a little bit too, unselfish to want to share the ball when I keep telling her to go to the cage. But, her uniqueness, her ability to come back, and her athleticism has really helped our team this year. I don't know if I left anybody out. We did talk about Alyssa Chung, AC from, Severna Park High School, being able to make that transition immediately to become one of the, true impact players the way Michaela was last year for our team. So that's exciting to see them being acknowledged and recognized by our conference.
Circling back around, Scott Wyckoff.
Also, how unique is it, Coach, that you go into the biggest weekend of the year to this point with the focus on getting a Patriot League Championship, while the players are also focusing on the biggest thing they have to do at the Naval Academy is get good grades with their exams starting?
Yeah, we've we've been in these situations before, and obviously as a spring sport, all spring sports, it's kind of like everything's winding down for most Division I programs, and this is when all the tests, are given out and finals and papers, and of course for the seniors, it's another level of finishing up all the responsibilities and looking forward to that, new chapter in their lives, while they still, it's not like I have one eye on our future and one eye on playing lacrosse. Right now, they're just, practicing and playing in the moment. And everything else they have like really in place for them. And that's what, credits not only the great institution of the United States Naval Academy, the Athletic Association and Chet Gladchuk and Scott Strassmeyer and obviously Chris for, making this a seamless, journey for our team with the level of support we have. But like you said, Scott, it is always an interesting time of the year where there are demands. I believe most, Division I, in this case, women's lacrosse players are, managing all that to be able to then just focus on the practice time and getting ready for the next competition.
Circling back to Emily, you talked about what we see her doing on the field. What makes her such a great leader where what we don't see in the locker room, practice field, on the yard, that's made her such a great captain? A lot of times your best players aren't always your best leaders, but she's been able to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, she's, for as a coach, she's just super athletic. And then she's bought into the whole idea that she just loves lacrosse. So you get those two things going for you. And then if you've witnessed any time when you've seen her play, she's just a real tough, women's lacrosse player. And that toughness really carries through, particularly on the playing field. But as you said, whether it's in the locker room, on the practice field, or, we meet our captains once a week. She just is really diving into what can make us a better team, how we can unite on certain areas on the field or at practice. And, those are the little things, captains make, our coach's life easy in that they get everybody locked in. There's accountability. There's great practices. She's a very serious-minded young athlete that takes this all in very seriously. But more than anything else, she just, loves the team, wants to go out, play hard for Navy. And she's just really what the Naval Academy represents for a young student, and in this case, student athlete, to, lead in the hall, do good grades and do good things on the field, which is where you get a lot of exposure, is the greatness that we've exhibited on the field that a lot of people take notice of, young women and our captain, Emily Messany. They go, wow, what an incredible young athlete who ultimately will be a Navy pilot. So that's kind of exciting.
As always, the ultimate team sport, but individual matchups, especially when you talk Army Navy, none bigger than the draw taking matchup. That's going to be pretty exciting to see two of the best draw takers going toe to toe in this one.
Yeah, I mean, we only have one game and it's Army, and they've done very well on the draw, and especially, I know that Bill talked about, Bridget Duffy on the draw circle, just really scrapping, really making it difficult. So yeah, you get to this level by, all the four teams have really, really a solid draw units. And, it's a big part of the, women's lacrosse game, but there's also other parts, I mean, that's an exciting part. And everybody we know is working hard for that, in addition to all the other things that we've talked about during this episode.
Thanks a lot and good luck.
Hey, Scott, thank you so much.
Bill Wagner, anything else?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask about that same topic. In the first game, that's one thing that did go well for Navy. You all won 21 draws. How critical is Alyssa in that unit for this to winning this game?
Yeah, I mean, you would know that if that was one area that Army would like to look at. I mean, we all train hard. A lot of the draws did go our way, although the results didn't, kind of match that. There's, caused turnovers and ground balls and little things and finishing on offense and playing good D. All that collectively will be a big part of what happens on Thursday night.
Do you feel it's critical to beat Army and at least reach the Patriot League Championship to have a Navy get an NCAA tournament berth?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I mean, we know how tough the game is going to be. You know, it's an epic game, whether it's football or, you know, basketballs, all of our sports, and in particular now, what's in front of us is Army in the semifinals. I couldn't think of a better semifinal, for the Patriot League is our game. And so, that's all we can focus in is what Navy can do. I just can't really think beyond that right now.
Can you thinking back that it wasn't, I don't know how many years, but not too long ago, neither Army nor Navy had women's lacrosse. Now they're both very strong programs, nationally ranked. Can you talk about how great it is for the two service academies to have gone from not having women's lacrosse to actually being among the best in the nation in the sport?
Yeah. And Bill, that's a great question. We're just super excited that as you pointed out, for Chet Glatchuk to make a decision that we're going to have, Division I women's lacrosse here in Maryland, where there's the University of Maryland and Towson and Hopkins and Loyola. And that really just started things going. And, I also have to credit up at Army at the time. I think it was, Bo Coppage, Boo Corrigan, who ended up, witnessing what we were doing and adding women's lacrosse. He was a big lacrosse, player and fan, and so was his father and all his family members. So it really is exciting. I kind of lean on the idea that, the Navy men, who also have a big game today up at Lafayette, giving them a shout out. But, both Navy men and Army have always, displayed, top level play. And that's really helped, unite and ignite what the women have been doing too in these last couple of years.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And we look forward to seeing you guys up in Baltimore for the games this weekend. All right. Thank you.